A very good evening and welcome to this Sunday's edition of News First Weekend, coming to you live from our Newsfirst studios in Colombo. I'm Arundhati Mudanayaka. Let's start off with a look at the stories making headlines this evening.
Controversial doctor attached to the Kurunegala Hospital arrested over an asset issue. Director of the Kurunegala Hospital says to lodge complaints if there are any suspicions over surgeries. Sri Lanka Army conducts search operations in 4 districts. FCID records statement from Minister Rishad Bathiuddin for 6 hours. Reports about Sri Lanka in talks with India and Japan to build container terminals in Colombo.
ලංකාවේ දේශපාලන සම්ප්‍රදායනේ. ඒ සම්ප්‍රදාය අපේ රටේ තිබෙනවා. වගකීමක් කරගෙන නායකයෝ කතා කරනවා. අපේ නායකයෝ ජනතාව ගැන හිතලා වැඩ කරනවා. ඒ මුකුත් සිද්ධ වෙන්නේ නැහැ.
And now the stories in detail. A doctor attached to the Kurunegala Teaching Hospital has been arrested due to suspicions over the manner in which he amassed his wealth.
The Kurunegala police arrested the 42-year-old suspect Seigu Siabdin Muhammad Safi. Police stated that the doctor was arrested in order to investigate how he amassed his wealth. It was further revealed that the recent allegation of performing illegal permanent female sterilization was levelled against the apprehended suspect. An investigation is currently underway by a committee headed by the director of the Kurunegala Teaching Hospital, Dr. Sarath Veerabandara.
We questioned the respective doctor with regard to the caesarean surgeries. The doctor revealed that he had performed 8,000 caesarean surgeries. However, the amount of surgeries performed is irrelevant. As health officials, we are only concerned as to whether any misconduct took place. We have received a complaint in this regard. A preliminary investigation is currently underway and the report of the investigation is already prepared. However, I cannot reveal information included in this report to the media. After the conclusion of the preliminary investigations, a proper investigation must be conducted. We must only arrive at a conclusion after investigations are complete.
ECG technician කෙනෙක් අත්අඩංගුවට පත් වුණා. එම තාක්ෂණ වේදිකාගේ පරීක්ෂණ මේ වෙනකොට පොලිස් දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවෙන් සිදු වෙනවා. ඒ සම්බන්ධව අපිට වැඩි විස්තරයක් අපිට ප්‍රකාශ කරන්න බෑ.
Minister Rishad Bathiuddin was questioned for almost 6 hours at the Police Financial Crimes Investigation Division over financial misappropriation in importing 257,000 metric tons of rice for Satasar during 2014-2015.
Police media spokesperson SP Ruwan Gunasekara said Minister Bathiuddin arrived at the FCID premises at around 10 this morning. He left the premises at around 4:30 in the evening.
I was called to provide a statement regarding the import of rice during the 2014 and 15 period. I provided everything they requested for. I haven't done anything wrong. It is the drug media mafia which has made me a convict. I haven't done anything wrong. Why should I resign? I am ready to provide answers to the select committee which has been appointed.
Former General Secretary of the United National Party, Tisatha Nayaka, responded to journalists who questioned him on the prevailing political situation in the country during an event in Kandy today.
ඉදිරි 2020 මේ රට බාර ගන්න අලුත් මූණක් අවශ්‍යද?
මේ රටේ පාලකයන්ට ආදර්ශයක් ගන්න ඊයේ පෙරේදා සිද්ධියක් වුණා.
The resigning of Theresa May is a good example for our politicians to learn from. She has more time and yet she resigned because her opinion clashed with the opinion of the backbench MPs of her party. She resigned because she didn't want to let the dissension affect her party or her country. She made a very good speech during her resignation. She said she was resigning in order to give way to a new Prime Minister to lead the country. See how much value she has. We also follow the British political traditions. Do we practice those traditions in our country? Do the leaders of this country take any responsibility when they address the general public? Do the leaders think about the people of the country before they act? None of that happens in this country. Depending on the prevailing situation of the country, if that is the required action, I would not hesitate to take it. If needed, I can come forward as an independent presidential candidate. I might make such a decision during the presidential election.
මම ඒ වගේ තීරණයක් ගන්නත් ඉඩ තිබෙනවා.
UNP කිමුත් දාන්න යන පොදු අපේක්ෂකයා විදිහට ධම්මික පෙරේරා මහත්තයා.
ඇත්තටම මම නම් ඒ කතාව අහලා
I felt ashamed after hearing that story. What is the UNP trying to do? Are they so desperate that they have to bring leaders from outside the party? Are they unable to mold leaders who can face this challenge? This is a disgrace against the frontline party members of the UNP, including Sajid Premdasa and Karu Jayasuriya. Why are they trying to auction the position of the common candidate? They should at least allow a backbench party member take the leadership rather than display the party desperation in this matter. Why don't we follow British political traditions? Britain's Theresa May never said that she will bring forward a leader from Ireland or Scotland. She gave that opportunity to her party. The UNP need to amend their behaviour.
එනිසා එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂය මේ හැසිරෙන ආකාරය වෙනස් කරගන්නම ඕනේ.
Security forces continued search operations in several areas across the island today as well.
Security forces, including the police, SDF and the Sri Lanka Army, conducted search operations in several areas across the island. Search operations were carried out since morning today around the Batuta Road in Matara and surrounding areas. According to our correspondent, security forces seized clothing similar to military attire and CDs of suspicious nature. During a search operation conducted in Anuradhapura, the army discovered 2 buildings constructed on an ancient land with ruins in Atrikgama in Gamirigaswava. Security forces suspect that these buildings may have been used as Islamic teaching centers. Meanwhile, the army carried out a special search operation in a housing complex in Mattegoda. According to our correspondent, security forces seized clothing similar to military attire. Search operations were also conducted in Chilau, Madampe and Mahavava today. According to our correspondent, security forces seized a laptop, a mobile phone and multiple CDs and computer hardware components. Security forces also arrested a suspicious individual. During a search operation in Mavatagama, Talgaspitiya, security forces seized 12 swords and a scope of a firearm. According to our correspondent, security forces arrested 2 suspects. In addition, search operations were carried out in the Enderamulla town, several areas in Avissavela and surrounding areas. During search operations in Koswatta, Kottaramulla and Thummodara last evening, security forces seized a pair of binoculars, a painted van, 3 swords and a gas mask. The owner of the seized van has been requested to produce himself at the Koswatta police station. Meanwhile, according to the police media division, the individual named Pavitra Madhushankar, who was arrested in connection with the discovery of a bag filled with hand grenades in a school in Dikhenapura, Baduraliya, has been detained for further interrogation. The suspect has been handed over to the Colombo Crimes Division for further investigation. The suspect was arrested last evening by the Baduraliya police. The suspect has been identified as a 32-year-old resident of Hadigalla, Baduraliya. Police media spokesperson SP Ruwangunasekara stated the 2 groups of police officers have been deployed to the area for further investigations.
While operations to eradicate terrorism are carried out by the security forces, operations against narcotics are also underway. Here are several incidents that were reported during the past 24 hours.
The Sri Lanka Navy arrested 2 individuals with 245 kilograms of Kerala ganja off the Northern Sea. It is suspected that the Kerala ganja were being transported into the island by a dinghy boat at the time of the arrest. Suspects were arrested with the boat for further investigations. A suspect was arrested yesterday near the Orugodawatta flyover with heroin worth an approximate 20 million rupees. Police said 2 kilograms and 24 grams and 150 milligrams of heroin were seized during the arrest. The suspect is 34-year-old Mohammed Rahim Mohammed Roshan, who is a resident of Mahabat Gamua. 2 individuals were arrested with 5 grams of heroin by Sri Lanka Navy in Paliagoda yesterday. The search operation was carried out by the Navy patrolmen who are attached to the Western Naval Command. According to the Navy, suspects are residents of Valiveria and Kalania, who are aged 43 and 44 respectively. Several suspects were arrested yesterday in the Piliandala area with a firearm and several suspicious equipment. Suspects are under detention orders and currently are being questioned by the police. The equipment was found inside a vehicle which was parked.
a foreign-manufactured firearm, a live hand grenade, 2 knives and 200 grams of gunpowder were seized. Police said 4 suspects who are aged 34, 26 and 29, residents of Morawaka, Paliagoda and Kalaniya were arrested. Among them were the main suspect of the murder that took place in Hadigama, Piliyandala on the 11th of January.
Good evening and welcome to the newsroom. We have a special report for you tonight. But let me start off by saying that we are not opposing the government. We will also not fall into their agenda. We will always stand with the people and by the people. And this is why we are making a revelation about a report by the Reuters about a decision made by the Sri Lankan government. Let's first have a look.
Reuters reported that Sri Lanka is in advanced talks with India and Japan to construct a container terminal at the port in Colombo next to a Chinese terminal built as part of Beijing's Belt and Road initiative. Reuters reported that the involvement of India and Japan is the latest sign that Sri Lanka wants to neutralize the growing influence of China. Quoting a source close to the Indian High Commission in Sri Lanka, Reuters reported that a framework for the terminal project will be signed soon. A diplomat at the Japanese embassy in Colombo also confirmed negotiations on the port terminal were taking place. Another source said the project would cost about $500 million and India and Japan will nominate companies that will handle the containers from their respective countries. Quoting a source, Reuters reported that Japan will provide a 40-year soft loan with a 0.1% interest rate with a 10-year grace period. The 3 countries will also set up a company to operate the terminal after the Sri Lankan cabinet approves the deal.
Now one might wonder, what is this terminal Reuters is talking about? It is the eastern terminal of the Colombo port. Now speaking of the background story, this terminal was built in 2010 at a time when Sri Lanka didn't have a terminal to operate large ships. But 9 years later, how did we end up conducting discussions to hand over the terminal to India and Japan? Now the close relationship between former President Mahinda Rajapaksa and China is no secret. We all knew about it. But as a result of this tight relationship, the Hambantota port was built together with China. Now similarly, the Colombo International Container Terminals were also constructed. And during the Rajapaksa regime, the port was also built in close proximity to these terminals. So with the amount of attention given to China, countries like India and the United States of America also started demanding for a portion of a country. Now with the establishment of the UMP-led government in 2015, the leaders who said that they can't settle the debt obtained to construct the Hambantota port ended up handing over it to China in the guise of an investment. Now it is at a time like that Minister Arjuna Ranatunga loses his position. And then India also requested for assets such as the Hambantota port and the Sampur power station. What's most strategically important to India is the eastern terminal of the Colombo port with the Chinese terminal built right next to it. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe at first attempted to hand this over to India, and Mahinda Samarasinghe was the subject minister at the time. With this happened the so-called constitutional crisis on the 26th of October last year. But the government is now trying to give away the eastern terminal of the Colombo port to India and Japan using a completely different method. So when these important assets are being handed over to foreign countries, what will be left with the people of this country? What are the future generations of our country going to be left with? In simple terms, if you can't do this right, if you still think that it is okay to give away national assets, vacate your positions and give it to someone who will do this right. Sri Lanka does not have the urgency to get together with other countries to develop the eastern terminal. Now this fact was rightly confirmed by the port employees as well. Let's listen.
The civil engineering activities of the eastern terminal have been completed. 75 million rupees is needed for machinery. The Sri Lanka Ports Authority has the money. However, if the government are conspiring to get together with India to put this process into action, then what they are doing is something detrimental to our country. By selling the assets that belong to the people, they are limiting the Ports Authority to a signboard. Just like they robbed the central bank, they are now attempting to steal from the port. If this continues, I am certain that all the employees will come together to fight it.
සියලුම සේවකයන් ඒකරාශී කරලා මෙය පරාජය කිරීම සඳහා කටයුතු කරන්න අපි.
While such efforts are taken to sell countries' national resources to other countries, this is a report on destroying national resources due to the clear negligence of officials.
The Kantale sugarcane factory is a gift from Czechoslovakia. It commenced its production in 1960. Factory's land, which spread over 21,000 acres, was privatized in 1993 and it was again nationalized in 1997. This is the current situation of the factory, which was employed by 5,000 workers. The road to the factory is also in a dilapidated state, whereas trailers and tractors which were used to transport sugarcane are left to corrode.
These machinery and equipment have been idle for the past 25 to 30 years. There is a crane machine on the other side, which was a brand new vehicle.
Ministers and MPs visit this place and promise to resume operations here. However, nothing happens. People steal all the metal from these machines at night.
The forest in this area continues to grow. We clean through these areas through Shramadana, but it is not of use. Against such a backdrop, when it's forecasted that by 2020 sugarcane consumption will reach millions of metric tons, is it fair to leave out this factory to destroy and to be sold out for waste iron? Kankasanture cement factory, which commenced its production in 1950, was closed down in 1990 because of the war. Although it has been 10 years since the victory from the 30-year civil war, officials have failed to put the cement factory back in action. Back then, it was the largest cement manufacturing factory in Sri Lanka, and its speciality is that limestone, which is needed to manufacture cement, was extracted from its own land. More on this tomorrow.
Well, thank you, Asta, for bringing us that special report. Moving on to other local stories. The National Security Review Committee met under the auspices of President Maithripala Sirisena today.
The President has decided to summon a meeting monthly to review the progress of the tasks implemented to strengthen the country's national security while obtaining the ideas and suggestions of all the parties as well as their assistance. The very first meeting of the committee was held with the participation of religious leaders, the Prime Minister, Opposition Leader, Speaker, Ministers and MPs, Chief of Defence Staff and Commander of the three armed forces and Acting IGP and defence heads and intellectuals. The President emphasized that the assistance of all parties are required in strengthening the national security of the country when considering this international condition. Heads of security divisions, including the three armed forces commanders, also expressed their views, presented details regarding the steps that they have taken to prevent the activities of the terrorists while obtaining assistance of international intelligence services, as these terrorist attacks were linked with an international terrorist organization.
Now, the government recently introduced a wide range of measures to help revive the tourism industry that was hit hard by the devastating April 21st attacks. However, several anomalies were reported during the recent course of time.
Among the relief measures was the much-lauded reduction of value-added tax from 15% to 5%. As per the extraordinary Gazette notification dated May 21, 2019, published under Section 2A of the VAT Act, VAT rates were reduced from 15% to 5% for a period of 1 year, commencing from the 21st of May 2019 on hotels and tour operators registered with the Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority. However, the tourism industry is now faced with a fresh dilemma, as the current VAT Act restricts the claim of input credit if output VAT is at 5%. According to the third proviso to Section 22, subsection 3 of the VAT Act, any person who accounts for the output tax at the rate of 5% shall not be entitled to deduct any input tax.
The VAT rate is given at 5%, which may be welcomed by customers, but you are unable to claim your input taxes. Value-added tax, by definition, is a tax on value addition. By any chance, if your value addition is negative, which means you have substantial higher loss and your cost is higher than your total sales proceed, you will have a negative value addition. In a situation like that, the inability to claim input taxes will make the companies at a worse position. That is what we are expecting in the tourist industry. We saw the tourist booking getting cancelled by approximately 70%, if I am not mistaken. So with that much of lesser turnover, the tourism companies will find it very difficult to claim their input taxes, and if the input taxes are unclaimable, that amount of cost will get added to their operation. In that case, inability to claim input taxes may be a disadvantage to the hoteliers. Either they will have to increase the price or close down the operations that is not making profits.
The relief package announced by the government also includes a one-year moratorium that will be provided by the central bank to institutions as well as employees in the tourism industry on a case-by-case basis. Experts say that while a moratorium will reduce the burden of the industry by deferring capital and interest payments on debt, the government could have opted for a more straightforward approach rather than paving the way for favoritism and political patronage.
Tea exports for the month of April 2019 has not changed when compared to the same period of the last year.
As a result of a higher export volume of 4.7 million kilograms for the year of 2019, the to-date value of the tea exports have increased by 5.5 billion rupees when compared to the previous year. The total value of tea exports during the first quarter of 2019 was reported as 94.4 million kilograms, a growth of 4.7 million kilograms when compared to 89.7 million kilograms of the same period in 2018. According to the Tea Exporters Association, Iraq has emerged as the largest importer for the period of January to April of 2019, followed by Turkey and Russia. Iran is placed fourth, with Libya, China, UAE, Azerbaijan and Syria being the other noteworthy importers for the period under review.
What happened was there was probably a bit of a disruption with regard to the tea auctions being held on time for 2 weeks. But other than that, as far as the sector is concerned, as part of the chamber, we've not had any complaint or any difficulty with regard to the tea industry as a result of the April 21st issue. However, in terms of apparel, we had expected our buyers to come down and, they do a routine visit in April. So that was postponed, but other than that, by and large for exports, including tea, we have not had a major impact with regard to as a result of the issue.
The first phase of the leadership training program, which is conducted by the GUM at the V-Force, concluded successfully today.
The V-Force project carried out in Sigiriya, Nigampo, Ratnapura and Dadigama have rendered a remarkable service. With the aim of nurturing vision and empowering the V-Force generation, a V-Force leadership training program was held at the auditorium at the head office of the Capital Maharaja Organisation Limited. The event was graced by the world-renowned mountaineer Elmo Francis. Several practical activities also took place in line with the event. Many youth leaders, including university students and students of the Maharaja Institute of Management, participated in today's program.
අපි තුල තියෙන දේවල් අපි කොහොමද තවදුරටත් ගොඩනගා ගන්නේ ඉස්සරහට අපේ ජීවිතය අරන් යන්නේ කොහොමද අපි කොහොමද අපේ අභියෝග වලට මුහුණ දෙන්නේ කියන එක ගැන ගොඩාක් විස්තර අපිට දැනගන්න පුළුවන් වුණා. හොඳයි කියන එකට වඩා මේක වෙනස් කියන එක තමයි හොඳ වෙන්නේ. අපි යං ජෙනරේෂන් එකේ කට්ටිය හැටියට අපිව මේ දේ ගැන දැනුවත් කරන එක ඇත්තටම වටින දෙයක්. අපි ජීවිතේට ගොඩක් දේවල් එක් කරගත්තා. ඒ මගින් අපේ ජීවිතය සාර්ථක කර ගැනීමට ඉදිරියට අපිට හැකි වෙයි කියලා අපි හැමෝම විශ්වාස කරනවා.
Also in local news, while some parts of the island is receiving sufficient rainfall, another is inconvenienced with the lack of it.
This is the Rajababa tank in Ampara. This tank collects rainwater that enriches more than 150 acres of paddy cultivation. But in the face of the prevailing dry conditions, this is the plight that farmers are facing. Farmers said if the cultivation does not receive sufficient water, all their hopes and expectations will be shattered. This is the last water dispersed that we were given. This has left us with no water. What we request from the officials is to have sympathy on us and give us a response considering this. We are like lost people who have been left in a corner of Sri Lanka. We are not leaving because we can't leave what we started. And we are in debt to everyone. We are in debt when we took pesticides. We are in debt to the people who ploughed our paddy fields.
An ambulance was donated to the Midyaniya Rural Hospital today.
An event to donate the ambulance was held under the auspices of the Minister of Housing and Construction, Sajit Premadasa. The ambulance, with an approximate value of 9.2 million rupees, was donated under the Samata Sahana National Programme. We go into villages and work with them. We will support the development of the village. No matter what anyone says, this country needs development, upliftment and relief. There are many in Parliament who have forgotten about those three words. They put forward arguments to support the claims of their families. There is no development in this country. They don't think about 21 odd million population of Sri Lanka. The first thought that comes to their head is, how will this affect me? How can I use this as an opportunity to climb up the ladder? How can I manipulate this situation to benefit my family? The people have to decide whether they will continue to be deceived by these untrustworthy politicians.
Issuing a press release, former Minister Milinda Morukota says that Sri Lanka should aim to set up a compulsory military service model that requires all men in the first instance upon reaching the age of 18 years to serve in active duty as full-time servicemen in the Army, Navy, Air Force or Police.
He said that this program should be implemented comprehensively and apply to all Sri Lankans regardless of social position, ethnic origin or religious background. Fulfilling national service requirements should be a prerequisite for recruitment to any public service job. He added that implementing a military service policy is expensive for any country and will require serious attention and planning. The former minister goes on to say that Sri Lanka needs to adopt a series of multifaceted strategies to overcome the present crisis. He says that our leaders need to unite across party lines and agree on a package of radical, short, medium and long-term measures that can be implemented on an immediate basis.
Police media spokesperson SP Ruwan Gunasekara says that a loss of approximately 15 billion rupees has been incurred when importing rice for Lak Satosa.
Police media spokesperson SP Ruwan Gunasekara says that a proper procurement process was not in place when importing the stock of rice. He added that 80,000 metric tons of the imported rice stock was not in a suitable condition for consumption and a part of the rice stock was used as animal feed. The police media spokesperson further added that a portion of the rice stock was destroyed, resulting in a loss of approximately 15 billion rupees.
Moving on to news overseas now. According to an electoral reform group, more than 40% of lawmakers in India's new parliament face criminal charges, some as serious as murder and rape.
The Association of Democratic Reform said one member of parliament for the opposition Congress party is battling 204 cases, including manslaughter and robbery. At least 233 of the 543 members named as winning seats on Thursday face criminal proceedings, according to the ADR, whose election chief Anil Verma said that there is disturbing trends in parliament that it is bad for democracy. A second straight election drubbing for opposition Indian National Congress leader Rahul Gandhi has raised serious questions about his leadership and casting a damaging shadow over one of the world's most prominent political dynasties. Gandhi, who lost the family constituency seat of Amethi in the northern state of Uttar Pradesh, will have to face the music at the meeting of party leaders in coming days.
And in sports news, the Sri Lankan branch of the International Shotokan Karate Academy held a training camp in Colombo today.
The head coach in the Indian branch of the Japanese Karate Federation and Director of Communications for South Asia, Shihan Nizam, was the chief guest at the event. The coaching camp was conducted by the president of the Sri Lanka Karate-Do Federation, Shihan H.M. Sisirakumara. Many participants from the western, central and northern provinces attended the event.